Welcome to another episode of Old versus New. Today is Pathfinder edition. Here is a first generation Pathfinder in 1995, and this is the fifth generation of the Pathfinder, a 2022. In this video, we're going to compare style, interior, talk about the engines, and see which one is better. So let's talk about the old Pathfinder for a second. This is our 1995 Pathfinder. These were called the WD 21 edition Pathfinders. Now, Nissan did a weird thing where they kind of alternated between body on frame and unibody. So the first Pathfinder was old school. Body on frame, it's got a ladder chassis with the body bolted on top. The second generation Pathfinder went unibody. And then for some reason, with the third generation, they're like, all right, we're gonna base it on the pickup truck again. So the third generation was body on frame. And then the fourth generation, they're like, no, screw that, we're going back to unibody. So by the trend, the fifth generation was supposed to be body on frame, but it's not, they broke it. So the fifth generation is back to being unibody just like the fourth. So that's one of the big major differences between the two. Now, the old one had kind of an interesting styling motif. This was designed in like the mid 1980s. You can see everything is basically a perfect square or a cube or some kind of trapezoid. There are no round angles basically anywhere. It's flat to more flat. Looks very 80s, but it's kind of a cool thing nowadays. Very kind of retro trendy. And one of my favorite parts about this is the way they designed the back end here. So they wanted it to look like a pickup truck with a topper. I kid you not, that was kind of the design briefing. So this whole rear section was meant to kind of replicate the look of a traditional single cab truck with a bed topper. So some ways they did that. They've actually hidden the rear door handle into the C-pillar, so it's not apparent on the side of the vehicle. Of course, the body character line kind of helps with that trend, but overall, it's a pretty cool looking little truck. Size-wise, this is over 2 feet shorter than the new Pathfinder. So the new Pathfinder has really grown. So that kind of single cab truck design, that has been lost obviously with the new Nissan, but it still is not a bad looking vehicle. Compared to the fourth generation, this is better in pretty much every respect. If we come around to the front, we can kind of see some of the major changes. So we've got this new headlight design, keeping with Nissan's new kind of branding design. It's got a twin stack with the separation, that's body color, turn signal up top. Big in-your-face grille. We've got the new Nissan logo, so they've actually inserted this white script in the basic Nissan design. And then the lower front fascia is supposed to look aggressive. So it's got what appears to be a skid plate, but that's just all plastic. And then we've got the fog lights incorporated into the bottom down here. These are kind of supposed to, I think, replicate like an LED off-road light, but you know, it's just a standard fog light. Overall, it's very apparent the ground clearance differences between the two. So you can really tell the new one is aimed more toward road going efficiency. It's nice and low. The old one, on the other hand, is super tall. So big in your face square bumper, tow hook, almost no provisions made for efficiency, right? There's not a lot of fuel economy talk going on here. There's no interesting aero, basically a brick into the wind with some nostrils on the front of it. Let me know in the comment section below which one you like more. Now, these old Pathfinders here in the States could be had with a choice of either 4 or 6-cylinder engines. This one is a 6-cylinder engine. Pretty basic though. It does have fuel injection. I just practiced this, and now I can't open it. There we go. So here it is. This is the Nissan 3000 V6, so a 3-liter V6. Not much to talk about. Very reliable engines. They did have some issues, such as studs plopping off or breaking off the exhaust manifolds, and that kind of makes them sound like golf carts, as this one has. And then timing belts were an issue on this engine as well. They do frequently need timing belts, but apart from that, if you maintain them even with kind of the bare minimum, these go a long time. The transmissions, the same cannot be said. These had a 4-speed automatic, and these were much more problematic. So the manual transmission was kind of the way to go on the old Pathfinder. You could also get these old Pathfinders in both 2- and 4-door configurations. So this one obviously is a 4-door, but there was a 2-door, super rare, super weird looking with this triangle quarter window. That was available way back in the day. Now, of course, the new Pathfinder 4 doors only, and this one in the States only has one engine option. If we pop the hood on this one, it's grown by 500 cc's. So this is now a 3.5 liter V6. It makes 284 horsepower. The old one made maybe 145 horsepower, the new one 284. So being based on the Nissan hard body pickup truck, The Pathfinder uses a very basic four-wheel drive system. There's a 2-high selection, a 4-high selection, a neutral, and then you push in for four-wheel drive low. A very almost agricultural in its operation, and now it's stuck in 4-low. That is, of course, one of the disadvantages of these systems, is they can be a little bit finicky, but it does work, and it ensures that you are either in 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. There's no wondering, am I going to have traction? But then again, if you're on snow and you forget to plop it in a 4-wheel drive, you're going to end up facing the wrong way in traffic. So the interior on the old Pathfinder, very kind of basic as well. There's a lot of plastics, kind of the mid-90s classic Japanese plastics. Not actually all that hard. It's kind of that elephant skin. It feels pretty nice to the touch, and it's very durable. Even after 26 years, the dashboard is looking good. No cracks. Steering wheel, plastic steering wheel on this one. This is the XE, which I believe was like the mid-level trim. So plastic steering wheel, cruise control buttons on the steering wheel, basic gauges, fuel temperature, speed, and then your rev counter on the right there with a clock, a little digital clock. The center stack, almost no design to it. You got vents, sliders for the heat and AC control, aftermarket radio in this one, unfortunately, and then your chunky automatic selector. So 4-speed, but it does have an overdrive on and off function there if you want to lock out the overdrive. Basic parking brake down here, fog light switch, and then the most useless cup holders in the world. We'll get a shot from the other angle maybe, but there you go. You can see how those were supposed to work. This one's broken off. These do almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. They just don't work. But that's okay, because it was the 90s. You didn't need to drink your big gulp and drive along. Headliner in pretty good condition in this one. Nothing to talk about there. Simple dome light up top. And then the seats, cloth seats. Not a lot of adjustability, not a lot of support, but they've held up well and they're pretty durable. Let's talk about the interior on the new Pathfinder. Now, stepping in the new Nissan Pathfinder, there's a lot more emphasis on design and actually quality of materials. This really is a nice interior. It feels almost upscale and premium, like what you'd find in an Infiniti, for example. So stitched leather across the dash. And I really like this brown leather, especially against this dark green exterior. Just looks fantastic. Look at the seats. They've got this really nice stitching across the seats. Super emphasized on the design once again. It's not your typical triangle or rectangle stitching. It's almost asymmetric, and that's continued along the backrest. And then we've got the black accents along the bolstering. It just looks really, really nice, and it feels nice. So this one's got the leather stitch steering wheel. The shifter now is this funky little square thing. It's of course all electronic. It doesn't make a mechanical linkage to like the transmission. So park, reverse, neutral drive, and then M. Now they do say this is a 4-wheel drive, so if you look on the back it says 4WD. In my opinion, it's more all-wheel drive because this does not have the low-range transfer case anymore. They ditched the low-range transfer case. What you get instead is this little rotary knob with a couple different modes, so snow, road, sport, tow, and then you also have 2 different off-road modes and a hill descent. That's great in my opinion. It's not a replacement for a low range when you're off-road, but it is there. This also has a 9-speed automatic, and that is the big deal about the 5th generation Pathfinder. So the previous generation Pathfinder, they had a CVT. It was one of the weak spots of this vehicle, but the new one has gone to the 9-speed, which is much better, at least on paper, than the CVT. We're going to have to see what that's like in the real world when we can get this thing off-road. So when we talk about the tech in the Pathfinder, much improved, obviously, over the old one. You go ahead and start it up. This one's got the digital cluster. We also have the Nissan suite of safety technology. You can turn it on right there, and you can see in the center screen all of the things that gives you. So forward collision warning, blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, that's all included on the new Nissan Pathfinder. Adaptive cruise control. Overall, it's just a lot more tech in here. I do like the Nissan system. Nissan has changed this pretty recently. Their infotainment looks really good now. It's got super high quality graphics, Bluetooth audio, Apple CarPlay, that kind of thing. And then dual zone automatic climate control with heated and ventilated seats in this model. So the back seat in the old Pathfinder is actually super impressive. Now it's a little bit weird because the floor is high. I think that is a result of being pickup truck base, but your knees kind of shoot into the air. The good news is you do have a decent amount of headroom. This does have stadium seating, so the rear seats and the rear roof are taller than the front. But overall, very impressed with the rear seat. This is, of course, a bench seat. And it's worth noting too, no airbags in this vehicle. This one doesn't even have front airbags. So pretty basic in terms of its safety gear. But let's see how the rear seats fold. A little bit different than new cars. So first of all, the rear seat cushion lifts up. You got to remove the headrest, and now the back cushion will stow forward. Got a flat floor up until this point, and then you've got basically a hard stop. But that's how they did it back in the day. So obviously the new Pathfinder, a lot more emphasis on safety and also comfort. It now has airbags. Go figure. But the rear seat is very impressive in this as well. First of all, it reclines a lot, which the old one didn't do. It also slides forward and backwards. This one has 2 captain's chairs. So we do have a middle center console in this one. And then these armrests fold down, and very comfortable place to spend time. Of course, this is a top spec Pathfinder. Here in the middle of the front seats, we've got heated rear seats and automatic climate control for the second row. But interestingly enough, these new Pathfinders are 3 rows. Check this out. So the seat folding operation in the new one, very simple, pull the lever, that folds it flat. But if you want to get into the 3rd row in this vehicle, you just push this electronic button and now the whole thing pivots. Let's see how the 3rd row is. Accessibility is very good, super easy. Put the seat back here. Well, it's usable. It's actually much better than I thought. I'm 6'1" and I don't fit back here terribly, especially if this person just scooted their seat forward just a little bit. I'd be far more comfortable. And rear seat occupants also get USB ports. That's nice. So getting into the back of the old Pathfinder, first you have to move the rear-mounted spare tire. How cool is that? That's kind of a funky feature. It's worth noting though that even though it's rear-mounted, it still says temporary use only. So this was not really a full-size spare, which is ridiculous because they went to the effort of mounting it behind the vehicle on its own swing gate, but that can be changed. So pull the lever. Now this whole unit swings out of the way, and finally we can get to the trunk in the Pathfinder. Quite usable, quite big. Oops. This one's got headrests laying around because I didn't replace them from when I folded the seat, but there you have it. That's what the trunk looks like. Some tie-down points along the sides. Nothing really to talk about. It's a trunk. At the back of the new Pathfinder, we've got the hitch. This vehicle is rated to tow up to 6,000 pounds, which is pretty impressive. And then over here is the 7-pin wiring connector. We've got kind of this satin chrome finish along the rear of the vehicle. And then moving up from there, you're not going to forget it's a Pathfinder. They make it pretty darn clear that yes, this is in fact a Pathfinder. Now the rear mounted spare tire is gone. Probably a good thing, to be honest. And now they've included a power lift gate. So this is what the rear is like with the seats up, but let's go ahead and fold them down. That should be pretty easily done. So start by folding the headrests and then push them down. Do that for all 3. Plop the rear seats down. Honestly, the liftover height is much higher than the old one, which is interesting. I mean, significantly higher. This could potentially be a problem for loading heavier items. And the overall length, it's roughly the same, maybe even a little bit shorter. But if we lift up here, check this out. Tons of rear storage. But is there a rear spare tire? Is there a... That's your cargo net. Do they include a spare on this? Well, okay, this is not going well. Let me check underneath. Yes, there is. There is a spare. It's underneath like in a pickup truck, but it's definitely a little donut. So let me know which one you prefer in the comment section below. The old school off-roady one with the solid rear axle, or the new one with independent suspension and leather and all the technologies. Pricing wise, we don't know the price on this fully loaded one yet. The old one, we bought this one for like $3,700. So obviously affordability wise, the old one's going to be a little bit cheaper, but let me know. You like the direction Nissan has taken the Pathfinder. And as always, this has been Tommy with the Fastlane Car. Check out TFLcar.com for the latest and greatest in new car reviews.